Let's move into main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Aaron Fitch, who writes, "Hey, John. Like you, I am a big Ben Affleck fan. I am a huge Ben Affleck fan, and have been since his earliest movies. I'm also a big DC guy, but I like Marvel stuff too, just not as much. Anyway, wondering if you saw our beloved Batman, and Ben Affleck will always be Batman to me, if you saw our beloved Batman talking about Kevin Feige and calling him the greatest producer that's ever lived. Is that kind of a betrayal of loyal DC movie fans? I'm a bit torn. What do you think?" All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, if you guys did not see it, Ben Affleck was being interviewed and the topic of Kevin Feige and Marvel came up. Now, of course, Ben Affleck is my all-time favorite on-screen Batman. I just thought he just understood parts of Batman that other great iterations of Batman just never quite got. And even though I'm very excited for Matt Reeves's Batman, what I really wanted to see was Ben Affleck directing a Batman movie. But hey, if it can't be him, Matt Reeves is great. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Anyway, Ben Affleck was just recently being interviewed, and he had some really interesting things to say about the MCU, Kevin Feige, and all that kind of stuff. This is what Ben Affleck had to say. He said, "Fucking Kevin Feige is absolutely, you have to say, the greatest producer, most successful producer who's ever lived. He's the only guy in the world who, if he told me, I know what the audience wants, this is what we're doing, I would believe him 100%. That effer knows his audience like no producer ever. He's a genius. Kevin is like a ringmaster at the circus. He knows exactly how much to wink at the audience, exactly when to pull at the heartstrings, exactly when to do the effects, how many jokes, what the sensibility, what the tone is, because people didn't know to run away from the pajamas or embrace it or make it serious." This is coming again from DC's Batman. Now, I understand the question in asking, is Ben Affleck, even though he's not Batman anymore, although he's going to appear in the Flash movie, but he's not really Batman anymore. But he is still kind of like one of the faces of the DCEU, at least for now, maybe not for much longer, but he's like one of the faces of the DCEU. As such, should DC movie fans consider Ben Affleck's words like a betrayal of the DC fandom, of the DC universe, and of those fans who support? Is Ben saying this a betrayal of DC? My answer to that is simply this. The only way you can consider Ben Affleck's words as a betrayal is if you are one of these blind corporate zombie slave fanboys who believes you have to owe allegiance to some multi-billion-dollar company over another. The only way you should take Ben Affleck's words as any sort of offense is if you are one of these people who believe that you have to pick a side. You have to either love and give your loyal and allegiance to this corporate brand instead of this corporate brand. And hopefully more and more fans are realizing you don't have to be that. It's okay to just love comic book movies or movies in general. And you don't care whether a movie has this billion-dollar corporate label on it or that billion-dollar corporate label on it. You don't owe allegiance to any corporation as a fan. All you want is good movies. And if you make good movies, then great. And listen, let's not forget that, Superman himself, Henry Cavill, has talked about how much he loves Marvel movies. Kevin Feige has talked about how much he looks forward to watching all the DCU movies. It seems like the only people who don't get that everybody wants everybody to succeed, because the better the comic book movie genre is in general, and the better that audiences respond to them in general, is just good for everybody. It doesn't mean that every comic book movie that comes out will succeed. Absolutely not. It doesn't mean if one bad one comes, it means all the rest of them will fail. Absolutely not. But, there's just no denying is Kevin Feige the greatest producer of all time? No, probably not. But man, if he keeps rolling, If he keeps rolling, I mean, it's going to be hard to produce. If once someday Kevin Feige will break away from the MCU. Someday Kevin Feige will move away from the MCU. And when he does, and he starts making award-winning, money-making films that aren't comic book movies, it's going to be hard to deny his greatness. I mean, the one criticism, and Donaldo Martinez sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thanks, Donaldo. Right now, the one thing you maybe could kind of level against Kevin Feige right now, maybe, is the fact that the only thing he has done is this MCU sandbox. Okay? That's the one thing you maybe can say. That the only thing he's ever done is this MCU sandbox. I mean, that's been significant at any rate, right? And okay, fine. But even in that one little sandbox, he has made the most box office dominant film franchise. I mean, it's basically his franchise has become the movie industry in many ways. And listen, he's already starting to branch out. As a few people in the chat board here, like Micah Willis and others, a few other people are pointing out that he's already beginning to branch out a little bit because he's making a Star Wars movie. Now, you can make an argument that making a Star Wars movie is still a little bit in that same sandbox. Okay, maybe that's a little bit, but listen. Right now, Kevin Feige is making big hit films that audiences love, makes tons of money. He's even had his movies being nominated for Academy Awards. But I'm telling you, once he leaves the MCU, and he will someday, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, maybe not in 3 years, but he will leave the MCU at some point and want to evolve. And once he starts making other types of movies that get Academy Award nominations, and there's just not going to be anything that we're going to be able to say to deny just how great Kevin Feige really is at this. And again, at the bottom line is Ben Affleck coming out and just acknowledging what is clearly reality. Today, Kevin Feige is steamrolling the producing world like nobody else on the planet. That's just reality. For Ben Affleck to come out and just acknowledge reality, it tells me two things. Number one, he acknowledges the truth and reality. He doesn't live in some fantasy world. But number two, it reemphasizes to me that Ben Affleck is just a big geek nerd at heart, which is one of the reasons why he gets Batman so much. And one of the reasons I desperately want him to come back as Batman and direct a Batman movie. But whatever, I'm just holding on to fantasies there, I suppose. But it just, again, it emphasizes to me what a true fan and geek and nerd Ben Affleck is at his core. And that's always good to see too. Anyway, guys, question is, what do you think about Ben Affleck's comments? Do you think he's right? Do you think he's wrong? Do you think it was inappropriate for him being kind of associated with DC to even make those sorts of comments? I don't know. Maybe you disagree. Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys.